Hello, my name is Richard White. I'm a member of East Jersey Trout Unlimited, and this is a short video on tying what I think of as just a simple squirrel nymph. Tail, the body, the legs, basically the hackle, all tied from squirrel. And it's simple to tie. It's very effective. As you can see, it's a pretty buggy looking little fly. You can fish it like a swung wet fly. You can fish it as a nymph. Even fish it, grease it up a little bit, and fish it in as an emerger. They're quite effective. They're really easy, and as squirrel is certainly easy to come by. So let me demonstrate how this one works, and hopefully you'll decide it's something you'd like to tie. All right. I would normally tie this on sizes 14 or 16. In this case, I'm tying it on a size 12. This happens to be a firehole grab gape nymph hook, but you can tie it on whichever one you prefer. I'm tying it on a slightly larger hook just because it's easier to show and a little easier to tie. The thread I'm working with is 70 denier Danville. In this case, it's I kind of like using this sort of burgundy colored thread. I'm just going to quickly lay down a base. I'm not worrying about making anything perfect, just getting a little bit of a base so things adhere better to the shank of the hook. Then we need our rib, and in this case, I prefer a slightly brighter rib, so I'm going with something closer to that burgundy color, just a burgundy wire. Let me come back up to the thorax area, bind this in, and again, all the way on the way down, it'll add a little weight, not a lot, and go back to the tail end, then I'll come forward again. And now we need the tail of the nymph, which is nothing but a piece, but just some fibers off of a red squirrel tail. We don't need really long fibers, so we can come down near the base here, and I'll pull out what seems like a decent sized clump for the tail. Excuse me while I cut that off camera. So pull out any fluff. There's not much there. Now, I don't want the tail very long here, so maybe half the body length. Lay that on top. Bind that down to the shank, pulling up on the squirrel tail as I go back so it stays on the top of the shank as much as possible. Then, as always, get that down out of the way. I'm going to do a turn behind it. That'll make sure it stands up a little better. Leave my thread at the rear, and it's time to start dubbing. And this dubbing is just some reddish brown, red, brown, gray, all those colors mixed in. Body fur from a fox squirrel. You could use just the regular gray from an ordinary gray squirrel, or the reddish from a red squirrel. Whichever you have, any of them will work. Then I will put just a little wax on the thread here, just so the dubbing fur sticks a little better. Lay this on. I'm going to twist it up counterclockwise as I'm looking at it. Start winding until the fibers start to catch, then you can get a better twist in them and they'll adhere better. And then just start bringing that body forward as I wrap. And clearly I need more, and that's fine. Better to start with less than you need than to start with too much and end up wasting. At least that's my approach. It's always easy to add. It's harder to remove. So as I come forward, I'm going to try to make the body just a little thicker as you go forward, since this is essentially a mayfly imitation. And that would give us the contours of a mayfly. Add on a bit more. And I didn't estimate that right, so we'll add just a bit more. This one's coming out a bit thick, but that's fine because we're going to really brush it out to make it nice and buggy. So spin that on. Come forward enough that I'm into what would be the thorax region. Now I can bring over my ribbing material. And some people are really fussy about how many. I generally get 5, but I don't care if it's 6 or 7. It's really not a big deal. I know some people make a big deal of it. Now I'm going to do a few extra wraps forward. That'll just add a little weight. Bind that down to the hook shank. Wrap in front of it. Then helicopter the excess off. Then I'm going to come back over that. Now to create the legs, I'm going to make a dubbing loop. So double my thread over. Wrap it down. And do it again. So that secures the loop. Then I can come forward. Then I put a dubbing twister in, and that will hold it in place. Keep the loop open so I can insert stuff into it. Bit of wax, that's a little too much. Now for the legs, I'm going to use, whoops, this has slipped a little bit. There we go. I'm going to use more of the squirrel tail fiber. And I need more than I use for the tail here, because this is going to be all the legs. I'm going to pull it out at 90 degrees to the tail. Clip it off close so I have as much to work with as possible. Excuse me a second. Get that last bit. Then I'm going to insert this into my loop. Spread it out. And I'd like the fibers to be most of the body length. And I don't mind if I have really long butts here, or you can come in and trim them with a good sharp pair of scissors. Then I'm going to spin my dubbing twister. I'll take that down so it's a little more comfortable to spin. And just spin it and spin it and spin it and spin it and spin it until that makes a very nice tight noodle and all those squirrel tail fibers are sticking out in an angle. Then I can run my finger up the thread, my fingers up the thread, and that will tighten that up. Now, to wrap this, it's really hard to wrap while holding the dubbing twister because it's so long. If you have a shorter one, it might not be. So I then use my hackle pliers to come in, grab the loop, disengage the twister. Then I can start wrapping what's essentially my hackle, pulling back and wrapping, pulling back and wrapping. And notice I get 2, maybe 3 turns. Then just use my thread to bind that down. Go in front of it to secure it. Clip off any excess. Being careful not to clip your thread. Again, I'll pull everything back a little bit. Pull that hackle back a little bit. Now I'm going to fill the front, the rest of the thorax and the head space with a little more of the same dubbing used for the body. Again, just squirrel underfur. And build up the shape until I'm happy with it. Doesn't take very much. Again, this is just a small area, so you do not need a lot of dubbing here. Again, counterclockwise spin, that way it tightens when you start wrapping it. Build up a little head out of this burgundy thread. Now, on smaller hooks, I always put my head cement, in this case Sally Hansen, directly on the thread. It's easier to get control that way and not put too much on. Then take my whip finishing tool, five or six turn whip finish, snug it, clip it, and you're done. Well, not quite. It really helps if you want something buggier. Take any sort of a dubbing brush that you have, and this squirrel fur really really comes out nicely when you pick it out a little bit to give you that nice buggy appearance. It also adds some contour to the fly. It's all about making it look more alive. Pop that up straighter, and you have a very simple buggy looking nymph. Now, I like the brighter wire. For the ribbing, you could go with a copper wire, you could go with black wire, whatever you choose. I've seen people do the same type of fly, except using some kind of a flash material for that, because they wanted a brighter look. Again, your choice, but nice buggy nymph, very effective, very simple, and all tied with very simple materials to acquire. I hope that works for you guys. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to make comments in the area below the video. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. This is something new for us at EJTU, is putting videos like this out there for other people. Again, the whole point of this is sharing. Again, good luck, tight lines, and have a good day. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.